Hey there everyone, and welcome to some more RPG horror stories with DnD Doge. In today's episode, we have a tale about a dungeon master that is struggling with a Dungeons & Dragons party that needs to be saved from themselves. A story about a player's D&D character doing something while they weren't there, and more. So, without further ado, let's get right into the fray. My Party Won't Take a Hint by Reddit user HolidayProof9819. This isn't really a horror story. It's just that I have lost control of my party, and I really don't know how to steer them back. How my campaign session this week went, and I'm the DM. The party inadvertently stumbles upon an enemy base that I intended to be encountered at least a full milestone later than when they found it, and for which I am not fully prepped for them to go into. Damn, alright, time to scare them off. I tell them, you look down at this wide dig site that spans several hundred feet and is encompassed by jagged rock walls on all sides. There is a lone path leading to the floor of this artificial valley, guarded by 3 sets of gates, each manned by watchtowers and intimidating looking guards. At the base, this encampment is surrounded by jagged wooden palisades, periodically bolstered by more towers, which in turn is patrolled on both sides by dozens more guards. Within the walls, there are barracks for what you would estimate to be enough lodgings to hold at least 200 soldiers. You are incredibly outnumbered. The soldiers have enslaved dozens of laborers, and these slaves are being forced to excavate a ziggurat partially protruding from the far side of the valley. The entrance to this temple is guarded by what appear to be 2 giant statues of some kind of ancient dwarven architecture. That should do it. Though the players say, "Oh, alright gang, how do we attack? What kind of soldiers are they, DM?" Damn it. I say, real rough looking dudes of all races. Orcs, humans, hobgoblins, drow, Goliaths, all menacing and unkempt. The players respond, should we just storm them? Oh, for F's sakes. I continue to say, while you're contemplating, a shriek is heard above you, and you look up and see the adolescent dragon working with the bad guys, the same one who almost killed you in a previous encounter, circling high above the camp, like a vulture guarding its kill. The players react, "Oh, this guy again. Alright, we need to be careful." I continue to say, as you talk about it, you're distracted by a giant light coming from the entrance of the pyramid. As you look, you see the light is reflecting off of a giant battle axe. It is being wielded by a new minor BBEG, the largest half-orc ogre you have ever seen, 9+ feet of pure muscle. He is shirtless, sporting only his axe, which he wields effortlessly with one hand, and in the other hand, he holds what appears to be a human skull. He drinks foul red liquid from the skull in a single gulp before kicking off the edge of the pyramid. The dragon flies down to greet him as one would an old friend, and it's clear that the dragon is loyal to this ogre, whether through friendship or subservience. There ain't no way they're prepared to fight that dude. But the party says, "We use an ability to give the ranger advantage, and he fires his longbow at the BBEG." You what? But then proceed to crit. The players ask, "Hey, DM, what's wrong? Why are you visibly cringing?" I really don't know what I'm going to do to avoid a TPK next week. Well, there are a few things that you could do in this situation. Perhaps just have the BBEG send out a small company of guards to attack the party. That way, the party could feasibly fight with them, but not be in good standing after the fight, and be forced to retreat and come back at a later time. Or, if you're feeling creative, have them be overwhelmed, captured, and taken prisoner, and then you could have a few sessions of a prison break type scenario. Though, there is always the option to just talk to the players above table, and let them know that there is no way they would be able to survive that encounter without a TPK. I mean, it's D&D. There are plenty of ways to tackle this type of thing. Let's move on. That time I missed a session by Reddit user Wolf Butterfly 42. This was a campaign I was in online about 2-ish years ago. I missed a session because I was really behind on schoolwork. For context, one of the other players had cast Charm Person on a kobold and had made the kobold want to follow us around. I don't remember what he wanted to get out of this, but the DM had said in Session 0 that he wasn't okay with having slavery in this world, and apparently decided to enforce that by not preventing the player from brainwashing the kobold, but by making the kobold just try to run away every time the Charm Person wore off. So, the Charm Person wears off, the kobold tries to run away again, and the DM narrates that my character, a monk ranger, was in a tree and jumps down from the tree on top of the kobold, preventing him from running away. Again, I was not there. I return for the next session, and the kobold effing hates me for no reason that I'm aware of. I ask the kobold to do something to help us, and I get a snarky retort back. I'm just like, doesn't Charm Person make the target also chill with your allies? And the DM responds, he's not attacking you, he just doesn't like you. I'm just like, whatever, assuming that this is a one-off, and the fight continues. Though it was not a one-off. It quickly becomes clear that the kobold hates exclusively me for no reason. I ask why, and the DM says that he's holding a grudge for me jumping onto him 2 sessions prior. I say, I wasn't there 2 sessions prior. And he responds, your character did X. I don't know what you want me to tell you. This is also a program that kinda like helps teenagers with social skills through RPGs. So he kept being like, does it bother you that he doesn't like you? Sometimes people don't like you because of a miscommunication in real life. How would you handle that? And I'm just like, this wasn't a communication. My character actually did something reprehensible that he deserves to be disliked for, except that I didn't do it. At the end of the last session, the Dungeon Master apologized and said that he shouldn't have kept making me face consequences for actions that I didn't do. But I didn't feel comfortable playing with that group anymore. Having a Dungeon Master run a player character when the player can't make a session can be fine, though the Dungeon Master is supposed to give that player a quick rundown on what happened during said session. I find it kinda ironic that this Dungeon Master was running a game that was supposed to help teens learn better communication skills, yet failed at communicating with his player about what happened, and then had the audacity to try to use the kobold being angry with OP's character as a lesson in miscommunication. The complete lack of self-awareness is palpable. Let's move on. But before we do, if you're enjoying the video, I hope you consider rolling a crit on that like button, leaving a comment, and subscribing if you haven't already, as I post new RPG horror story videos every Tuesday through Friday. And if you don't know already, there are kitties as well. But with that standard YouTube stuff out of the way, let's get to today's final story. Game Master shuts down entire campaign and Discord server in minutes, with no warning or explanation due to lack of communication. By Reddit user Relative Flounder 8904. I tried out a certain tabletop RPG system created around H.P. Lovecraft with an online group found via Reddit. The Keeper had done a great job, and our group of people really worked well together. We never missed a game, which is hard to find. We had made our way through the prologue, and were on the first chapter of the story. Everyone was seemingly enjoying themselves when Easter came around, so we took that weekend off collectively. During that time, our Dungeon Master started offering side roleplay stories on off-play days, which seemed like a fun idea. 3 of our players took them up on this idea, while the rest of us were on holiday. It sounded like, from the summary notes, that they went on a more chaotic side quest to attempt to get some weapons back that were taken from us during a previous police investigation of an NPC ally of ours that was mysteriously murdered. Now, personally, I could care less about getting weapons back, as we have plenty of money and could buy new ones. But we had another character who was a World War I vet, as this campaign was set during the 1920s, who was very obsessed with this particular gun. The Dungeon Master warned them that their violent, essentially kidnapping of a police officer would have consequences, which the players readily agreed to. Everybody was acting fine with this, though, of course, I was potentially worried that this would implicate the rest of our characters, but the player was trying to keep it far from us at first, in actual roleplay, in order to prevent us from being implicated as well. The other players, myself included, were able to delude from some roles that the instigators were being deceitful, and eventually had a talk with them. All of this was in-game and was consensual. We all talked about this out of group to help resolve the play smoothly. When it came time for role-playing, us confronting the vet character who had gone off on the side quest to get their weapons back and failed, which, duh, they weren't going to be able to manipulate cops, especially with how this module plays, but they were fine with negative consequences. They were being evasive at first, but generally not mean or obstinate. Realistically, they weren't going to just confess to doing dumb crap on the side, especially if it didn't pay off in the way that he had hoped. However, we did keep rolling, essentially insight and psychology rolls, and passing, so we knew that he was beating around the bush about something very important and dangerous. The Dungeon Master and player started to argue a bit on how this should be played out. Again, I'm not going to ever argue with the Dungeon Master, but DM could have shut down said player real easily if he didn't like him not responding how they wanted them to regarding past roles gaining insight into the situation. Eventually, we got the information out of the player, and I gave them my lawyer's info in-game, as they were likely going to be prosecuted. In my own theory, something not good was bound to happen. Those of us who were at the bar in-game were satisfied with him coming clean about his choices, and we even had bonded a bit over making bad decisions and moving forward without going straight to violence. Always use the carrot before the damn stick. And we decided to place trust in each other, because ultimately, we probably could have helped him get the weapons back if they hadn't gone off and chosen violence by themselves, which I think is a great learning lesson for a character, especially an ex-soldier that is slowly losing their sanity. At this point, the Dungeon Master told him that he wanted characters to be allies and generally not split up the group, as well as another house rule of no evil characters. Again, all good rules in my opinion. Though, instead of talking about these things and communicating about how he wasn't into where some of the players were going with the general module or taking said players aside, he just told us that he wasn't having fun and said that this would be our last session. After that, he promptly deleted the Discord with all of our character info, as well as the Roll20 game, within probably minutes. I messaged him after the game and apologized on behalf of myself if we had frustrated him or in any way messed up their current module and where it was headed. He was very nice and thanked me, then told me that I was a delight to work with, but that he didn't want to have evil characters or players working against each other, which I agree, I don't like splitting up the party either. I just thanked him for his hard work and to keep me in mind if he did another campaign. He said he was going to take a break from DMing and work on being a better communicator about house rules to avoid situations like this in the future. I totally understand not having a good time or feeling unheard because DMs put in so much work, but I didn't feel like he took any real time to confront the issue in any meaningful way in order to resolve things. The player even mentioned that his character would probably be happy to be killed off versus going to prison, and the DM did make us make 2 extra pre-made characters, so this could have been done very easily if it was truly a hindrance. And he could have also warned the player to abide by the house rules, especially after we had played for months every week. It felt crappy to essentially have the game scrapped, but even more so that we all lost contact due to the server being immediately deleted. We really loved the DM and his playing style, along with our group dynamic, so it was a shock to all of us. Luckily, we all found each other and are creating a new game together. But what hurt my feelings is that the Dungeon Master posted a new looking for game for new people in a Seeking Group subreddit 3 days later. Would it not have been more prudent and far easier to just have an adult discussion and continue the module? They are totally allowed to run another party and also say, "Hey, this isn't fun for me anymore." But I've never had a Dungeon Master, or even a player, nope out like this before. Ah, look, another story where a little bit of communication could have solved everything. It is a bit inconsiderate of that Game Master to just up and delete everything within minutes after canceling the game. Like OP said, that caused everyone to lose all their character info and even contact with the other players. The Game Master should have just told everyone to save everything and give like a day or two to figure things out. But that would have meant he would have had to communicate that to them. Seriously, to scrap everything over something so small that could have been solved so easily is really a shame. Thankfully, OP and the other players were able to figure out how to contact each other after this, and it sounds like they are still playing together. But those are all the stories I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.